21. Why does Moses say he brought the animals to Adam that he might see what he would call them, when God can never entertain a doubt? It is, in truth, inconsistent with the nature of God to doubt. Therefore, it does not appear that he was in doubt on this occasion, but that since he had given intellect to man, as being the first man born out of the earth, and endowed with a great desire for virtue, by which he was made thoroughly wise, as if he had been endowed with wisdom by nature, so as to consider all things like the proper ruler and lord of all, God now caused him to be influenced to display the proper performance of his task, and saw what was really the most excellent point of his mind. Besides this, by this statement he evidently indicates the perfect free will existing in us, refuting those who affirm that everything exists by a certain necessity, or else because it belonged to man to employ the animals. Therefore he also gave him authority to give them names. 22. What is the meaning of the expression, and whatever he called each living thing, that was the name thereof? We must consider that Adam gave names not only to all living creatures, but also to plants and to everything else which is inanimate, beginning with the more excellent class, for the living creature is superior to that which has not life. Therefore the Scripture considers the mention of the better part sufficient, indicating by this mention to all who are not utterly devoid of sense, that he in fact gave names to everything, since it was easy to fix names to things without life, which were never likely to change their place, and which had no passions of the soul to exercise. But the giving of proper appellations to living creatures was a more difficult task on account of the motions of their bodies and the various impulses of their souls in accordance with the imagination and the variety of the outward senses and the different agitations of the mind from which the effects of their works proceed. Therefore the mind could give names to the more difficult classes of living creatures. And on this account it was a very proper expression to employ that he gave them names as being easy to name because they were near. 23. What is the meaning of the expression, but for Adam there was not found a helper like to him? Everything was helping and assisting the prince of the human race, the earth, the rivers, the sea, the air, the light, the heaven. Moreover, every species of fruit and plant cooperated with them, and every herd of cattle and every beast which was not savage. Nevertheless, of all these things which were assisting him, there was nothing like himself, inasmuch as there were none of them human beings. Therefore, God gave a certain indication that he might show that man ought to be an assistant and cooperator with man, being endowed with perfect similarity to one another in both body and soul. 24. What is the meaning of the statement, and God sent a trance upon Adam and caused him to sleep? How is it that man sleeps is a question which has caused an extraordinary amount of perplexity to philosophers, but yet our prophet has distinctly explained this question, for sleep is itself properly a trance, not of that kind which is more nearly allied to insanity, but of that which is in accordance with the dissolution of the senses in the absence of counsel, for then the senses withdraw from those things which are their proper object, and the intellect withdraws from the senses, not strengthening their nerves, nor giving any motion to those parts which have received the power of action, inasmuch as they are withdrawn from the objects perceptible by the outward senses. 25. What the rib is which God took from the man whom he had formed out of the earth, and which he made into a woman. The letter of this statement is plain enough, for it is expressed according to a symbol of the part, a half of the whole, each party, the man and the woman, being as sections of nature co-equal for the production of that genus which is called man. But with respect to the mind, man is understood in a symbolic manner, and as one rib is virtue, proceeding from the senses. A woman who is a sensation of counsel will be more variable. But some think that the rib means valor and vigor, on which account men call a boxer who has strong loins eminently strong. Therefore the lawgiver relates that the woman was formed out of the rib of the man, indicating by that expression that one half of the body of the man is woman. And this is testified by the formation of the body, by the way in which it is put together, by its motions and vigor, by the force of the soul and its strength, for all things are regarded as in a twofold light, since as the formation of the man is more perfect, and if one may say so, more doubled in the formation of the woman, so also it required half the time, that is to say 40 days, when for the imperfect, and if I may so call it, half section of the man, that is to say the woman, there was need of a double allowance, that is to say of 80 days, so that the doubling of the time required for the nature of the man might be changed in order to the formation of the peculiar properties of the woman. For that body and that soul, the nature of which is a twofold ratio, the body and soul, that is of the man, require but half of the delineation and formation. But that body which is the nature and construction is in the ratio of one half, namely that of the woman, her formation and delineation is in a twofold ratio. 26. Why Moses calls the form of the woman a building. The margin of our Bible points out that the Hebrew word translated made means strictly builded. The union and plenitude of concord formed by the man and woman is symbolically called a house, but everything is altogether imperfect and destitute of a home which is exerted by a woman. To the man, the public affairs of the state are committed, but the particular affairs of the house belong to the woman, and a want of the woman will be the destruction of the house, but the actual presence of the woman shows the regulation of the house. 27. Why, as other animals and as man also is made, the woman was not also made out of the earth, but out of the rib of the man. This was so ordained in the first place in order that the woman might not be of equal dignity with the man. In the second place, that she might not be of equal age with him, but younger, since those who marry wives more advanced in the years than themselves deserve blame as having overturned the law of nature. Thirdly, the design of God was that the husband should take care of his wife as of a necessity part of himself, but the woman should requite him in turn with service as a portion of the universe. In the fourth place, he admonishes man by this enigmatical intimation that he should take care of his wife as of his daughter, and he admonishes the woman that she should honor her husband as her father. And very rightly, since the woman changes her habitation, passing from her own offspring to her husband, on which account it is altogether right and proper that he who has received should take upon himself the liability in respect of what has been given, and that she who has been removed should worthily give the same honor to her husband which she had previously given to her parents. For the husband receives his wife from her parents as a deposit which is entrusted to him, and the woman receives her husband from the law. 28. Why, when the man saw the woman who had been formed in this manner, he proceeded to say, She is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she has been taken out of man. Uh, He might have been amazed at what he had seen, and have said in a negative manner, How can this exquisite and desirable beauty have been derived from bones and from flesh which are endowed with neither beauty nor elegance, being of a form so far more beautiful and endowed with such excessive life and grace? The matter is incredible because she is like, and yet it is credible because God himself has been her creator and painter. Again, he might have said affirmatively, Truly she is a living being, my bone and my flesh, for she exists by having been taken from the bone and flesh of mine. But he makes mention of his bone and flesh in a very natural manner, for the human or corporeal tabernacle is a combination of bones and flesh and entrails and veins and nerves and ligaments and blood vessels and breathing tubes and blood. And she is called woman, with great correctness, as the power of producing with fertility, either because she becomes pregnant through the reception of the seed and so brings forth, or as the prophet says, because she was made out of man, not out of the earth, as he was, nor from seed, as all mankind after them, but of a certain intermediate nature, and like a branch brought out of one vine to produce another vine. 29. Why he says, Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall be two in one flesh. He here orders man to behave himself towards his wife with such excess of affection in their intercourse that he is willing to leave his parents, not in order that by that means it may be more suitable, but as they would scarcely be a motive for his fidelity to his wife. We must remark that it is very excellent and prudently done that he has avoided saying that the woman is to leave her parents and cleave to her husband, since the character of the man is bolder than the nature of the woman. But he says that the man ought to do this for the sake of the woman, for he is borne on by a cheerful and willing impulse to the concord of knowledge, to which, becoming wholly devoted, he restrains and regulates his desires and clings to his wife alone like birdlime, especially because he himself, delighting in his master-like authority, is to be respected for his pride, but the woman, being in the rank of a servant, is praised for assenting to a life of communion. And when it is said that the two are one flesh, that indicates that the flesh is very tangible and fully endowed with outward senses, on which it depends to be afflicted with pain and delighted with pleasure, so that both the man and the woman may derive pleasure and pain from the same sources, and may feel the same, aye, and may still more think the same. 30. Why both of them, the man and the woman, are said to have been naked and not to have been ashamed. They were not ashamed in the first place because they were in the neighborhood of the world, and the different parts of the world are all naked, each of them indicating some peculiar qualities and having peculiar coverings of their own. In the second place, on account of the sincerity and simplicity of their manners and of their natural disposition, which had not taint of pride about it, for ambition had as yet no existence. Thirdly, because the climate and the mildness of the atmosphere was a sufficient covering for them, so as to prevent either cold or heat from hurting them. In the fourth place, because they, by reason of the relationship existing between themselves and the world, could not receive injury from any part of it whatever, as being related to them.